Okay, so today we'll be discussing about folds. What do you mean by folds? Okay, so folds are generally the wavy rocky undulation. If I want to describe fold in a simple way, that means it's a wavy rocky undulations. Okay, and how these undulations are formed, and this is an example, or this is a photograph of a fold. See here, only single fold or single flank you can see. The strata are folded here, and there is a machinery you can see at the top. So this machinery is for petroleum. People, this is this strata or this folded structure, basically oil bearing structure. I am assuming it's a old photograph, and this folded structure is basically act as a reservoir for petroleum. Then you might say to me, sir, why we should learn about the fold and folded structure? As for civil engineering work, fold basically determine, or the flanks of the fold basically determines or help you to understand the site location. If there is a fold, and if you are building dam in this flank, or if you are building a dam in this flank, then what will happen? And that part will be totally, there is a separate chapter on this. So these are the basic knowledge you should get, and there will be a separate chapter which will discuss where we can apply this knowledge, this in geological knowledges. Okay, so this is a photograph of a fold, and fold is very so if I define fold is a wavy undulation, and it developed in a country rock whenever the region is under severe pressure. How severe pressure can create? Due to earthquake. That's our well known phenomenon. So due to earthquakes, generally severe pressure or lateral pressure from the both side will happen. So you are giving the lateral pressure, what will happen? This horizontal strata will look like this. Okay, so this structure is called fold. Okay, so fold is represented by a curved surface or a stack of curved surface. One is curved surface, another portion is a stack of curved surface. Okay, since the stratification is undeformed sedimentary beds is planar, so in your last chapter I discussed about the sedimentary beds, and it can be of horizontal beds stacked together. After lateral pressure, it will form a fold like this. So it could be like a single layer fold, or it's a multi-layer fold stacked together, or it could be have a single convex up. So it's a convex up structure. Convex lens, concave lens, you remembered, right, from your physics class. So this is the convex lens, this is the concave structure. Okay, so this structure will be called as convex up. So when you are seeing that it's a convex up structure, then you will be seeing it's a folded structure, or it could be of concave up. So it's called concave up. Okay, so it could have one flank or one structure like this, or one structure like this. So it might consist of a series of trough and crest. So what is crest? This one is called crest, and this one is called trough, just like your any wave. So this is the trough and this is the crest. So you will be seeing one crest and trough, or you will be seeing a series of alternate crest and troughs. This is how a folded structure look like. Another type of folded structure, let me show you. Okay, so this type of folded structures are also very common, and here you can see that whole orientation is so you are rotating the whole that folded as the general fold structure I have discussed, that's rotated 90 degree. You can see it here from here. It's also giving you the folded sense. So depending on the geometry, fold can be classified in several types. So before going there that, so fold and these flanks or the waveform of the fold could be of few so this waveform means from this to this is lambda. Lambda could be of few meters to few hundred kilometers. So it's a big structure. You can see this is the height of a man. There is a man standing in behind. So if you could see here, then you are getting the idea how big the folded structure is. Okay, so this lambda could be, or that this flank of a fold could be of 10 meter to 100 kilometer. That much of wide a fold could be. Clear? So that's the basic idea of fold and folded structure. Now see how big a fold is. So one crest, one trough, you can see here from this photograph. These are the vehicles standing at the foothill of the folded structure, and this is the folded structure. Now before understanding the type of the fold, let's discuss the geometric or the fold geometry or the geometric description of the folds. First will be the limb. Let me draw it. So I am taking there are two layers. One layer is this one, okay, another layer is this is below one, and this is the folded structure. And remember, for this structural geology class, the drawing is very much important. So you have to draw the figures whenever you are appearing in any kind of exam. So if there is a chance to draw a figure, draw it. So this is our fold. I am considering a general concept. Let me set it to understand. Okay, so what would be the limb and what will be the axial plane? These are called the limb. If I define limb means the stretching part. Four limbs means the folds are basically connected or two usually different or two usually inclined oriented structure, stretch arms, that's called the limb. So one layer is, this is your one layer, okay, and this is different second layer. So this portion is the limb of, okay, these are the limbs of a fold. Now another thing I would like to describe first, that is the hinge. This point is called hinge. What is hinge? Hinge means the point where two limbs are connecting. It's the maximum curve point. Maximum curve point are called hinge or hinges. Okay, remember that. So so far we have learned what are limbs, what are hinge. So in general, folds are made up of hinge that connects two usually differently oriented limbs. Obviously, the hinge may be sharp, the hinge may be abrupt, and depending on the hinge we will classify the fold. That I'm coming later. And the hinge may be sharp and abrupt, but more commonly the curvature of the hinge is gradual and a hinge zone is defined. So there you will be seeing the maximum curve point, and that you will be saying this is a hinge. Okay. Now the most important point here in this fold geometry is called the axial plane. So far what we have learned, we have learned about the we have learned about the hinge point. We have learned about the limbs. Now we will be talking about the axial plane. It's a very general concept. Consider this fold or this folded structure, and this folded structure, you can divide this folded structure into two halves by considering a imaginary virtual plane. So this virtual plane is called your axial plane. So this is your axial plane, this virtual one. Okay. Now after the axial plane we will be discussing the inflection point. So if I take the section like this, okay, so this will be our, tell me class, hinge. That's our hinge. There is another point where you will be seeing that the sense of curvature changing. That point is called the inflection point. Or in this inflection point, what you will be seeing, the sense of curvature changing. Or like if I draw it like this way, then you will be understanding properly. So I am taking a cross section. So consider another flank of a fold here, okay, which I have not drawn. So there is another flank. You got the idea. Okay. So this point will be the inflection point, and this inflection point is where the sense of curvature changes from one direction to another direction. So it looks like this is the middle point between this curve and this curve. This curve is starting from this point. So inflection point is that point where the curvature is almost nil or minimum. That's called the inflection point. What's it called? It's called, so limb is the stretch of rock beds lying between any crest and any trough on either side of either side is described as limb. Is it clear? Axial plane, this is the axial plane. This black shaded or mesh like structure, you can see this A is the axial plane. Okay, AP is the axial plane. So in any individual unit of fold, whether concave or convex upwards, it is always possible to imagine a plane or surface which divides the fold into two halves as symmetrically as possible, just like any axis definition you do for any machinery, for any structure. That's called the axial plane. What is an axis? The line of intersection of the axial plane with the upper or lower surface of any constituent base. Axis portion, you should have a clear knowledge about this axis. Let me describe. So this is our axial plane, and this axial plane is intersecting the line, or it's intersecting this top surface. You can see this is visible by naked eye, and this top surface, it intersecting the axial plane. Okay, this intersection line is called axis. So this is a axis 1 for the layer 1, and if you draw another intersection line virtually, that will give you second axis for the second bedding plane. So that's how axis is generally defined. Okay.
So the axial plane may be inclined also.
Yes, axial plane may be inclined also, and depending on the inclination we generally define the fold also. Yes, axis plane, axial plane, axis, depending on the inclination and orientation will be defining the fold structure. Depending on the appearance, I'll be defining the fold structure. So there are lot of classification of folds depending on several parameters that will be discussed in details. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
then is a point or a line, sir? Is a point or line along
It's if you are talking about the point, then it's a point, and it sometimes you'll feel it's a zone. When I'm talking about hinge zone, then if you take a 2D cross section, then obviously it will be a point. And if you are talking about the total, if you are connecting the hinge point, I'm coming to that. I didn't discuss that part. So if you connect the hinge point over a surface, then you will get the hinge line. Okay. So when I am talking about the 2D section, that will give you the hinge point. So that will be the hinge point here, and it will be the hinge line. So for this layer, the hinge line and hinge point axis, and for particularly for the symmetric fold structure, or particularly for this figure, only for the hinge line and axial axis are the same. Okay, are the same, or are in the same location. So hinge could be the point. So this is the hinge point if you talking about 2D, and if you connect all the hinge point, why I am saying connecting the hinge point, I can say that, sir, you can consider the maximum curve, and for this structure is coming a straight line. Not always, sometimes you will be having a curved hinge structure, and that's again I'll be classifying fold with respect to hinge. So whatever the parameters I am talking about, these are the criteria for classification of fold. I'm coming to that. Okay, first you understand this basic idea, then I'll discuss the rest. That is called hinge, and there is an important parameter, is called interlimb angle. Yes, I can. It's called the interlimb angle. So what we did learn, we learn axis, we know hinge. Okay, these are the inflection point. Okay, this is the hinge line, this is hinge point, axial surface you get, or axial plane you get. What is a wavelength? Wavelength will be the distance between two consecutive draws or two consecutive crests, just like you determined wavelength for any wave structure. So that will be the wavelength. Okay, and this will be the amplitude. I'm not discussing that at this point. Interlimb angle is very important. Yes.
Sir, please represent the axis in the previous PPT.
Yes. Yes. You are writing, or
Please represent axis.
which one? This is the axis for
Various
the.
axis.
This is the axis for this plane. What is the definition of axis? So you are asking this one. I am not getting your question. So the line of intersection of axial plane with the upper or lower surface of any of the consecutive bed. What you are asking?
Sir, I am asking to draw the axis in this PPT.
Okay. So you want me to draw the axis. This will be the axis for this one. This is a curved one. That was your question. let me give you a idea about that. Consider these two are the sedimentary layers. Is it visible, right? Two files are there, one is blue and another one is white, and you are giving lateral pressure, so this is making a fold like structure. Okay, so this folded like structure, if I'm going to make, so okay, consider this is a one trough, one crest you are seeing here, another crest is this side, which I am not picturizing at this moment. This is there. At this point, this is our hinge point. This point is our hinge point. It's the maximum curve point. Okay, so if the fold is if the axial plane is curved, then your hinge line may be off curve. If it may follow the curved direction. So here how you can determine the axial plane? You can easily determine the axial plane like this way. So you are taking a virtual plane through this. So this virtual plane will be your axial plane. Okay, this will be your axial plane, and this virtual plane is intersecting this layer at this point or along this direction. So this will be your axis of this white layer. For the blue layer, if I थोड़ा सा खोद के निकाला और blue layer में हम देख रहे हैं, what will be the axis? This will be the axis. Okay, it's look like this. So this will be the axis. Okay, and here the hinge point and the axis, hinge line and the axial line are the same. Not always you will find the hinge line and axis line are the same. So when I'll be classifying the fold on the basis of hinge and axial plane, then you will get the idea. Okay, now the most important topic is called the interlimb angle. What do I mean by interlimb angle? If you take a tangent on this curve, let me have this tangent, one tangent. What you are taking? You are taking tangent. So the figure what I am drawing might not be giving you the idea of tangent, but consider that I am drawing the tangent. Tangent of a curve.
Tangent at any point.
Tangent, yes, tangent at any point. Okay, so tangent at this curve structure you will be drawing, and it will give you a interlimb angle. What if this is a curve, at this curve point you are making a tangent, then that tangent will be intersecting at point. You have to consider, that's called the interlimb angle. Okay, so if I see the definition here, the interlimb angle, where yes, angle between tangents to the fold surface drawn through the inflection line. So at this point, sorry, not any point, at the inflection point, that's my mistake. So you will be drawing the tangent considering the inflection point, and you will get the interlimb angle. If you draw tangent in any point, then you will that might not be intersecting, right? Who was asking?
Yes, sir. Then it will be different for different.
Yes, that might not be intersecting. Okay, so that's called the interlimb angle. Sometimes in your fold you will be seeing that will supposed to create a, or consider this is a positive interlimb angle. This, if this thing happens, then I'll be saying this is a positive interlimb angle. If the interlimb angles are like this way, if the folded structure, if you see, I'm taking the cross section. Okay, if the folded structure like this is the interlimb angle, the generally it should meet in this direction. So but it will give you, it will meet in this direction, the interlimb angle. So there I'll be using the negative sign in the opposite direction. Okay, so depending on the interleave angle, I'll classify the folds also. Now let's go for the classification. And that so before going to the classification, you should understand the first order fold, when that's called the master fold, where generally developed after some lateral pressure, that is your first order folds. What is the second order folds? These are the smaller folds on the flank of first order folds. So this flank, this is the flank of a fold, and this flank is basically consisted of smaller folds. That's called the second order folds. And in the second order folds, you will see if you join the crates mainly, and you will get an idea of the fold structure. Okay, and if you smooth it out, in our term, if I told you that smooth out this drawing, if you smooth out, then you will get an envelope kind of structure. So it enables the relation of small to large scale fold, and is basically giving you the idea of the actual fold design or fold geometry. Now fold classification. Based on the appearance in the cross section, what we see the convex upward, concave upward structure, and another fold we have seen the photograph, remember, the neutral fold. Okay, so depending on the appearance, we can classify fold into several types. First one is the antiform structure. What structure? It's called antiform, like this. So how this is defined? This is called convex upward. Now if you have the concave upward, then you will have the synform design, and if you have nothing like convex upward or concave upward, is closing sidewise, so this side is closing, so it will give you let me draw a 3D structure that will help you to understand. Okay, this is the antiform, this is the synform. So this is antiform, this is synform, and this is your neutral form. Okay. Now, but antiform, synform terms are not used. These are more general terms. Okay, antiform, synform, these are more general term describing a upwardly convex structure or upwardly concave structure. The most common used term, which are actually the part of antiform is anticline, part of synform is syncline. It's a classification of antiform and synform. So for some specific reason, for our geological structure, we generally consider anticline and syncline. We don't say it's antiform, it's a synform. Okay, so we generally call it anticline and syncline. So fold can be based on the appearance, you can be classified fold in 3 types: anticline, syncline, and neutral. So what is anticline? Same like the antiform structure. Syncline, same like the synform structure. But the anticline structure, the tip of the where the limbs are commonly sloped away from the axial plane, like this. This is the anticline structure, and for the syncline structure, concave upward structure, it's dip towards the axial plane like this. So this incline they didn't consider this way. So syncline basically एक minute. So syncline will look like this. That's the syncline structure. So what will happen in the anticline and syncline structure? If you take a cross section at some point, then you will be seeing the syncline fold. Okay, younger rock at the middle and older rock, youngest rock in the middle and older rock in this, older rock in the outside direction. Anticline fold, younger rock in the oldest rock you will find in the middle and younger rock in the outside direction. How? Let me show you. Consider this is the first layer it depositing, so this could be our older consideration, and this is the younger formation, this white one. Okay, now what I will do, if I make a anticlinal structure here, so what you can see, older in the middle, blue in the middle, and the top you are seeing the, so blue in the middle, and at the top you are seeing the white one, that is the younger. Yes. Now for the synclinal structure, white means younger. Okay, what happened, younger in the middle and this goes outside, so the older at the outside portion. Younger you will be seeing at the middle and older at the outside portion if you take the process. So that's the basic difference from anticline and syncline. So youngest rock in the middle, that will be your syncline, oldest rock in the middle will be seeing the anticline. Okay, another secondary order or second order rock formation or second order fold structure.
Younger rock means newly formed rock.
Yes, younger means newly formed rock. So a large anticline with the secondary folds of the smaller size developed on it is called the anticlinorium. So when you will be seeing the anticlinal structure, when you will be seeing the second order fold on an anticline structure, that will be anticlinorium. Like see, it's anticline structure, but there is a secondary folds present, then I will be saying it's anticlinorium. Similarly for the syncline structure, includes, if the syncline structure includes the secondary folds, that will be called the synclinorium. Okay, there is anticlinal bed or monocline and synclinal bed. So these are the classification of fold on the basis of appearance. Anticlinal bend or the monocline is that this rock strata, see here, there is a bend. It's not like your conventional fold structure, but there is a bend, and when there is a bend and this wavy structure is give you, or you can tell this structure is a folded structure. So this is also a fold. Okay, so a monocline or the step like rock strata consists of a zone of steeper dip within or otherwise horizontal or gently dipping sequence. So there is a bending, and it's a more gentle bending, not like the regular fold we have discussed so far, not like the anticline or syncline. It's called the monocline. Then there is a synclinal bend. In case of dipping bed, due to the local flattening of the beds at the particular spot, this is monocline. Okay, and this is called the synclinal bend is also there, which is called the structural terrace. So in case of the dipping bed, due to the local flattening of the beds at a particular spot, beds occur horizontally and then go up again to the original dip. What happened in the synclinal bend or the structural terrace, that the bed is inclining, you can see here, then it will attain a horizontal position, then again you will attain the initial step. So it's kind of looking like a folded structure, not prominent, but it's a folded structure, and it's called the synclinal bend. So this is a example, this is a actual real example which is developed from, or this geological model has been developed from the seismic data or seismic survey. This is a anticline structure, and generally anticline or syncline structures are associated with petroleum bearing rocks. It is associated with the petroleum reservoirs. So here you can see there is a gap, and in between the gap, this S means shell. It's a shell rock, shell I have discussed, and this is shell. So GGG means gas. So gases, a layer of gases are there, so it's acting like a reservoir. S means sandstone, it could be the sandstone, I don't remember what is it, but sandstone or shell is there, and this is the gaseous layer, this GG part. So anticline acts like an petroleum reservoir, like see here, this red portion whatever the mark, so there is a opening or there is a gap due to this bending, and in this flank, basically if this upper strata is acting like a cap means it's a impermeable strata, it's not allowing the fluid, the petroleum to pass, then only this might be acting like a reservoir, and this red portion is showing you the storage of the petroleum. Okay. Now based on the symmetry of the fold, you can classify symmetrical fold and asymmetrical fold. So when I am talking about the symmetry of the fold, then axial plane will come into the picture. So axial plane, if axial plane is vertical and bisects the fold, then it's a symmetrical fold. When the axial plane is dipping, then it's a asymmetrical fold. As for example, if I take that's our folded structure. Okay. Got it? So in this folded structure, if you consider an axial plane, so this will be the axial plane, and this axial plane will divide the fold into two halves, this half and this half. Okay, that's called the symmetrical fold. Now tell me, what type of fold is this? It's a symmetrical. What type of fold? Whatever I have up to this point, what type of fold it's look like? It's anticline or syncline? So it's a anticlinal symmetrical fold. Okay, this should be symmetrical syncline fold. By this way you will be characterizing any fold. So any fold, if you are seeing, then you have to characterize according to this classification. So a fold could be of this fold, see, could be a symmetrical, non symmetrical. So anticline fold could be symmetrical, non symmetrical. Okay, but it's a anticline fold first, then it's a symmetrical fold. For the asymmetrical fold, the axial plane will be dipping. So if I take this cross section, let me कैसे draw करें. Okay, this is the strata structure, and here the axial plane is dipping. That's called the asymmetrical plane. Here axial plane is vertical, that's the symmetrical. When it's dipping, that's called the asymmetrical plane folds. So what is the example of symmetrical fold, or the photograph of symmetrical fold is this one. So this is a symmetrical fold. See, you can easily cut it into two halves, and this is how symmetrical folds look like in nature. Third, due to the symmetry of the fold, third point is your overturn fold. So axial plane is inclined and both the limbs dip in the same direction. That's called the overturn fold. So this is your overturn fold, like this. Here the axial plane, see, the axial planes are dipping in the same direction. The axial plane is inclined and just like the non-symmetrical fold by a symmetrical fold, but it's dipping in the same direction. The limbs are in this direction. So that's called the overturn fold. Recumbent fold, these are very important. Axial plane is, if the axial plane is horizontal, then I'll be saying it's a recumbent fold. So if I draw a figure like, if I draw a picture like this one, so depending on the axial plane, you are classifying the fold structure. Now consider a axial plane. So your axial plane will be like this. So this is your axial plane. Okay, so this horizontal is called the recumbent fold. Recumbent fold. Okay. Another one is the isoclinar fold. If the overturn fold limbs are same amount of dip you are getting, then it's called the isoclinar fold. So if you are having a same cline type of structure, so for the isoclinal, dip is same, dip angle is same. For the overturn, the limbs are dipping in the same direction. Axial plane is not vertical. Okay, axial plane is inclined, plus is dipping the limbs, these limbs and these limbs are dipping in this direction. So draw it, and this will be the axial plane. For the isoclinal, axial plane could be vertical, and limbs are same amount of dip you can see of a overturn fold, then it will be called as a isoclinal fold. So this is a photograph of recumbent fold, where the axial plane is horizontal. See, is very much common in nature. It's called the recumbent fold, this photograph. There is another structure present, that's called the homocline. Is generally not useful for formation of, it doesn't use as a reservoir rock for petroleum. Homocline means the same inclination, is a general term for any structure that have same altitude. So this type of structure if you are seeing, that means it's calling as a homocline. Okay, this might not be looking like conventional fold structure, but it's a part of fold and it's called the homocline.